Gonzalez for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Dr. Copan. Great to see a fellow Clevelander. Welcome. Great to see you, high school students. You're probably more brilliant than us, despite what Dr. Copan just said. So you'll see that as this unfolds. I think there's a lot to be excited about with the current state of the economy, right? GDP's around 3%, unemployment all-time low, wages finally starting to rise. We can go through a whole litany of data that would suggest that in the present moment, the economy's doing better than it has in a very, very long time. This committee is largely about balancing present with future priorities. One of the reasons I love this committee so much. And when I look at the state of the global economy and who our main competitors are and what we are going to be competing on, it's China and cutting-edge technologies. That is the race that we have to win. They know they have to win that. They're investing like crazy. They're focused. They're very diligent about it and cheating in a lot of ways, but if nothing else, they're focused. My concern when I look at the budget is I'm worried that maybe we're pulling back when I think we should be pressing forward on some of these cutting-edge technologies. So my first question would just be a basic one. With respect to the budget for NIST, were you consulted? Was NIST consulted? And how much on this particular budget?
Thank you very much, Congressman Gonzalez, and thank you for representing Ohio and Northeastern Ohio in particular. The budget process is one that I don't have full transparency to in terms of the way in which the initial work has been carried out. I know that as the proposal came to NIST, we have done our very best to be able to respond to work with the Department of Commerce. Secretary Ross certainly has been involved in those negotiations and been looking after the broader interests of the Department of Commerce. And of course, we're in the midst of preparing for the annual, the decennial census, which is another challenge for budget realities.
Thank you. And then specifically on the manufacturing side, again, this proposal would eliminate the MET program, I believe. And as you know, Northeast Ohio, we take pride in our manufacturing base. We're excited about it, and we want to make sure that we're always at the cutting edge. So if this were to go through, or if not, how would you make sure that we aren't losing our edge in the manufacturing sector?
Thanks so much for that question. Indeed, as the United States is looking at its at this particular budget and fiscal responsibility and the U.S. deficit, we also are facing unprecedented global challenge, and you mentioned China in particular. I indicated earlier the highly organized way in which China is working to achieve strategic advantage for its companies and its national interests. U.S. manufacturing is the heartbeat of this nation. And as people make things, they learn things. And we've seen that in Manufacturing USA. We've seen that in our manufacturing extension partnerships. The manufacturing extension partnerships has been a long-term success for this nation. Fritz Hollings just passed away. And it was a great gift that he gave to the U.S. In his legacy that he leaves with the MEP. We would anticipate that under this budget scenario that the MEP centers, if they do indeed lose federal funding, would have to work closely with NIST to try to transition to an entirely different funding model. They would need to find funding from the private sector, to find new ways of increasing their funding base from their client companies. States, of course, and economic development organizations, the nonprofit sector has an important role to play there. But we realize that if the budget would go through in this particular case, that there would be an important transition process to ensure that the long-term impacts of the MEP, such an important part of the U.S. manufacturing sector, could continue to deliver value for the nation.
Great. And then with my final question, with respect to standards and codifying standards internationally, what is NIST doing to ensure that the 5G standards are developed in a collaborative manner, and how is it working with international and interagency partners to ensure that we don't get locked into a Chinese 5G standard?
Yeah, thanks so much for that question. 5G is absolutely essential. NIST is highly involved in that and in the budget scenario, even though the overall budget bucket that includes advanced communications technologies has been reduced in the budget response. Our work in continuing 5G to maintain U.S. leadership, to work with U.S. industry players, and to ensure that U.S. Industry interests are represented in the global standards fora is an absolute top priority for us, and we would look forward to continuing that close engagement.